The forest moon of Kepler 442c was quiet, except for the soft sounds of alien birds calling in the distance. High up in the purple-leafed trees, something moved like shadow through the branches. It was big, silent, and deadly. Vorthak crouched on a thick branch 50 feet above the ground. His black fur absorbed the filtered sunlight that came through the canopy. 6 powerful legs kept him perfectly balanced as he watched the valley below. Blue markings along his sides glowed softly in the dim light under the trees. His yellow eyes never blinked as he studied his prey. Down in the valley, the humans were building again. 3 months ago, their ship had fallen from the sky like a burning star. Vorthak remembered that night clearly. He had been hunting smaller creatures when the loud noise made him look up. The metal thing had screamed through the atmosphere and crashed into the forest with a sound like thunder. At first, Vorthak thought it was just another dead thing. Then the humans came out. The alien had hunted many species across many worlds. He knew prey when he saw it. These humans walked on only 2 legs. They had no claws, no fangs, no natural armor. Their skin was soft and pale. They moved slowly compared to most creatures he hunted. They should have been easy kills. But 3 months later, 43 humans were still alive. This bothered Vorthak more than he wanted to admit. He was one of the best hunters of his clan. He had killed prey on 17 different worlds. Other aliens spoke his name with respect when they told stories of great hunts. Yet these weak, slow humans continued to live in his territory. From his perch in the tree, Vorthak watched the settlement below. The humans had built their shelters near a clear stream. They had cleared away the purple grass and planted strange seeds that grew into green plants he did not recognize. Smoke rose from several fire pits where they cooked their food. Dr. Hyun walked between the shelters, checking on the other humans. She was older than most of them, with gray hair that she kept tied back. Vorthak had learned that the others looked to her for decisions. She was what humans called a leader. The alien had studied her for weeks. He knew she went to the water stream alone every morning just after sunrise. He knew she stayed up late at night, staring at a small device that glowed with blue light. He knew she limped slightly on her left leg from an old injury. Vorthak could have killed her 10 times over. But something always stopped him. It was not fear. Aliens did not know fear when they hunted. It was not respect for a worthy opponent. These humans had no real weapons, no fighting skills to speak of. It was something else, something that made Vorthak pause each time he prepared to strike. The humans did strange things that other prey never did. Yesterday, Vorthak had watched a young human named Tay share his food with an older human who had eaten nothing all day. The older human was sick and weak. In nature, the strong did not feed the weak. Yet Tay had given away half his meal without being asked. 2 days before that, Vorthak saw 3 humans working together to build a shelter for a human who had injured his arm. They spent hours cutting wood and weaving walls, all for someone who could give them nothing in return. These behaviors confused the alien. His own species believed in strength above all else. The strong survived. The weak died. This was the natural order of things. Yet these humans seemed to go out of their way to help those who could not help themselves. Vorthak shifted his position on the branch, making no sound despite his size. He was nearly 8 feet long from nose to tail, with muscles that could crush bone. His ancestors had been apex predators for millions of years. The alien genetic code was written for hunting, for killing, for taking what they needed. But watching these humans was making Vorthak question things he had never questioned before. The afternoon sun was getting lower when Vorthak saw movement at the edge of the settlement. A young human was walking toward the forest. The alien recognized him as Jin, one of the maintenance workers who kept their machines running. Jin was small even for a human, probably no more than 20 years old. He had dark hair and moved with quick, nervous energy. Vorthak had seen him many times, always working on something, always trying to fix what was broken. Now Jin was walking alone into the forest where Vorthak hunted. The alien's predator instincts awakened instantly. His muscles tensed. His breathing slowed. Every sense became sharp and focused. This was what he was born for. This was what his entire species lived for. The hunt. Vorthak dropped silently from branch to branch, following Jin as the young human walked deeper into the woods. The human had a small pack on his back and carried a device that beeped softly. He was looking for something. The forest around them was alive with sounds. Strange insects buzzed in the undergrowth. Small creatures with too many legs scurried between the roots of massive trees. Somewhere in the distance, a large animal made a low, rumbling call. Jin seemed nervous but determined. He kept checking his beeping device and changing direction. Vorthak realized the human was following some kind of signal, probably from their crashed ship. This would be the perfect time to strike. Jin was alone, far from help, focused on his task instead of watching for danger. One quick leap from above, and it would be over. But Vorthak found himself hesitating again. As Jin walked through a patch of sunlight, Vorthak could see that the young human was afraid. His hands shook slightly as he held his device. His eyes darted nervously at every sound from the forest. Yet he kept walking forward, step by step, doing what needed to be done despite his fear. This was not the behavior of prey. This was something else entirely. Vorthak had seen courage before in the final moments when cornered prey chose to fight rather than run. But this was different. Jin was choosing to be here, choosing to face his fear, choosing to do something that might help others even though it put him in danger. The alien continued to follow, staying hidden in the shadows. He told himself he was just waiting for the right moment to attack. But deep down, in a part of his mind that he rarely acknowledged, Vorthak was beginning to understand that these humans might be more than simple prey. They might be something he had never encountered before in all his years of hunting across the galaxy. They might be something worth understanding rather than killing. One moment, Jin was following the signal from his device through the peaceful forest. The next moment, dark clouds rolled across the sky like angry waves. Thunder crashed overhead and rain began falling in heavy sheets. Jin ran for shelter, his device beeping frantically in his hands. The signal he was tracking was getting stronger, which meant he was close to finding the missing supply pod from their crashed ship. But the storm was getting worse by the minute. Lightning split the sky in bright white lines. The rain came down so hard that Jin could barely see 3 feet in front of him. His clothes were soaked through in seconds. The forest floor became slippery mud under his feet. From high in the trees, Vorthak watched the young human struggle through the storm. The alien's fur shed water naturally, and his 6 legs gave him perfect balance even on wet branches. He could have easily followed Jin through any weather, but something was wrong with the human. Jin stumbled and fell hard against a tree. When he tried to get up, Vorthak saw him grab his leg and cry out in pain. Dark liquid that looked like blood mixed with the rain on Jin's hands. The human limped forward a few more steps, then fell again. This time he did not get up right away. He sat in the mud, breathing hard, holding his injured leg. Vorthak moved closer, jumping silently from tree to tree. His hunter instincts told him this was the perfect moment. The prey was wounded, alone, and helpless, but something made him pause again. Jin looked around desperately, water streaming down his face. In the distance, he saw the dark opening of a cave in the rocky hillside. Using a broken branch as a walking stick, he slowly made his way toward. The cave was deeper than it looked from outside. Jin crawled into the darkness, grateful to be out of the rain. He used the light from his device to look around. The cave went back quite far with smooth walls and a dry floor. What Jin did not know was that he had just entered one of Vorthak's hunting lairs. The alien had several caves throughout his territory where he would rest between hunts. This one was his favorite because it had a good view of the valley and multiple escape routes. Ancient bones from his kills were scattered in the darker corners. Vorthak crouched at the cave entrance, watching Jin through the storm. The human had no idea. He was in a predator's den. He was too focused on his injured leg to notice the old bones or the smell of death that lingered in the deeper shadows. Jin rolled up his pants to look at his wound. A sharp piece of wood had cut deep into his calf when he fell. Blood was flowing steadily from the gash. Jin tore a strip of cloth from his shirt and wrapped it around the cut, but the bleeding did not stop. As the hours passed, Jin grew weaker. The blood loss and shock from his injury were taking their toll. He began to shiver uncontrollably, even though the cave was warm. His skin became pale and clammy. Vorthak moved into the cave without making a sound. His glowing blue markings provided the only light in the darkness. He could smell the human's blood, could hear his rapid breathing and fast heartbeat. Every instinct told him to strike now while the prey was at its weakest. But something unexpected happened. Jin, in his feverish state, looked up and saw the glowing blue lights moving in the darkness. His mind, clouded by pain and blood loss, did not register danger. Instead, he saw something else entirely. "Hey there," Jin whispered, his voice weak but gentle. "Are you hurt too?" Vorthak froze. In all his years of hunting, no prey had ever spoken to him with such a tone. There was no fear in Jin's voice, no desperate pleading for mercy, just concern and kindness. Jin tried to move closer to what he thought was an injured animal. "It's okay," he said softly. "I won't hurt you. We're both stuck in this storm together." The human reached into his small pack with shaking hands. He pulled out a water container, nearly empty but still holding a few precious drops. Jin's throat was dry and he clearly needed that water to survive. But instead of drinking it, he held it out toward the glowing lights in the darkness. "Here," Jin said. "You look like you need this more than I do." Vorthak stared at the offered water. This made no sense. Injured prey did not share their resources with predators. Weak creatures did not show concern for stronger ones. Everything about this human's behavior went against the natural order of things. Jin's arm trembled from the effort of holding out the water. When nothing took it from him, he set the container on the cave floor and pushed it gently toward the darkness. "Take it," Jin whispered. "I can see you're scared too." The young human then did something that completely bewildered Vorthak. Jin began talking to him as if they were old friends sharing stories by a fire. "My name is Jin," the human said, his voice getting weaker. "I work on machines back at the settlement. I fix things that are broken. That's what I was doing out here, trying to find a supply pod with medical equipment." Jin paused to catch his breath, then continued. "I know you probably can't understand me, but talking helps me stay awake. My grandmother always said that no, creatures should have to be alone when they're scared." Vorthak found himself listening intently. No prey had ever told him about their life, their work, their family. Usually there was only screaming, then silence. "I had a pet back on Earth," Jin went on. "A big black cat named Shadow. He used to hide in dark places too, but he was really gentle once you got to know him. Are you like Shadow? Just scared and trying to stay safe?" The human's breathing was becoming shallow and irregular. The blood loss was getting worse despite the bandage. Jin's eyes kept closing, then snapping open as he fought to stay conscious. "I wish I could help you," Jin whispered to the darkness. "Whatever you are, you don't seem mean. Just lonely, maybe." Jin's eyes finally closed and his breathing became deep and slow. The fever was taking hold, and he drifted into unconsciousness. Vorthak emerged fully from the shadows, towering over the small human. His yellow eyes studied Jin's pale face and the blood-soaked bandage on his leg. One swipe of his claws would end this strange encounter forever. But Vorthak found himself unable to move. This human had shown him something he had never experienced before. Kindness without expectation. Compassion without hope of reward. Care for a stranger in the darkness, as oh. The storm raged outside. Vorthak made a decision that would have shocked his entire clan. Instead of killing Jin, he settled down near the cave entrance to keep watch. For the first time in his long life as a hunter, Vorthak chose to protect rather than destroy. The night passed slowly, with thunder echoing through the cave and rain, drumming on the rocks outside. Jin remained unconscious, sometimes muttering in his fever about machines and friends and a cat named Shadow. And in the darkness, an alien predator stood guard over a human who had offered him water and called him friend. Jin woke up slowly, his head feeling heavy and confused. The cave was quiet except for the soft dripping of water from the entrance. The storm had passed during the night, leaving behind the fresh smell of rain and wet earth. He tried to sit up, and immediately felt dizzy. His leg still hurt, but the bleeding had stopped. More importantly, he was alive. Jin looked around the cave with clearer eyes than before, and noticed things he had missed in his fevered state. There were old bones scattered in the darker corners, claw marks on the walls, the unmistakable smell of a predator's den. Jin should have been terrified. Instead, he felt curious. Next to where he had been sleeping, Jin found a small pile of purple fruits he had never seen before. They looked fresh and ripe. Beside the fruits was a flat stone that held clean water, as if someone had collected it from the rain outside. "Well, that's interesting," Jin said to himself. His voice echoed slightly in the cave. Jin picked up one of the fruits and examined it carefully. It looked similar to berries that grew near the settlement, ones that Dr. Hyun had tested and declared safe to eat. His stomach was empty and growling, so he took a small bite. The fruit was sweet and juicy, with a taste like a mix of apple and honey. Jin ate 2 more, feeling strength return to his body. Then he drank some of the water from the stone. Someone or something had brought him food and water while he slept. But who? Over the next 3 days, Jin remained in the cave to let his leg heal. Each morning he would wake to find fresh fruits and clean water waiting for him. Sometimes there were also edible roots or nuts that he recognized from the forest around the settlement. But Jin never saw who was bringing these gifts. He began to sense that he was being watched. Sometimes he would catch a glimpse of blue light, moving in the deeper shadows of the cave. Other times he would hear the soft sound of breathing that was not his own. Jin was not afraid. If whatever was watching him wanted to hurt him, it would have done so already. Instead, it was keeping him alive. On the 4th day, Jin felt strong enough to try walking without limping. His leg was healing well, though he would need to be careful for a while longer. As he prepared to leave the cave, Jin made a decision. He sat down near the entrance and spoke to the shadows. "I know you're there," Jin said in a calm, clear voice. "I can feel you watching me. I don't know what you are, but I want to thank you. You've been taking care of me, haven't you?" Silence filled the cave, but Jin could sense movement in the darkness. "I'm not scared of you," Jin continued. "If you wanted to hurt me, you would have done it when I was weak and sick. But instead you brought me food and water. You kept me safe." Jin paused, thinking about his words carefully. "You know, you remind me of someone I used to know. My grandmother had a cat back on Earth. He was big and black, just like the shadows you hide in. His name was Kuro." In the darkness, Vorthak's ears twitched at the strange word. He had been listening to everything Jin said over the past few days, slowly learning more about human speech and behavior. Kuro was shy around strangers, Jin went on. He would hide under the bed or in dark corners when visitors came, but he was always watching, always listening. And when I was sad or hurt, he would stay close to me, even if I couldn't see him. Jin smiled, remembering. Grandmother used to say that Kuro understood more than people thought. She said he had a good heart, even though he tried to act tough and independent. Vorthak moved closer to the edge of the shadows, just enough that his blue markings became visible in the dim light. Jin's eyes focused on the soft glow. "There you are," Jin said gently. "I thought I saw those blue lights before. You're beautiful, you know that?" The word beautiful was not one that had ever been applied to Vorthak. Aliens were called strong, fierce, deadly, or skilled, but never beautiful. "I've been thinking about what to call you," Jin said. "Names are important, don't you think? They're not just sounds we make, they're how we recognize each other, how we show that someone matters to us." Jin looked directly at the blue lights in the darkness. "Would it be okay if I called you Kuro? Like my grandmother's cat? You both watch over people you care about even when they can't see you doing it." Vorthak was completely still. In all his years of life, no one had ever offered to give him a name. Among the aliens, names were earned through battle and conquest. They were taken by force or granted by clan leaders as rewards for great kills. But Jin was offering a name freely, as a gift. Not because Vorthak had proven himself worthy, but because Jin wanted to recognize him as an individual who mattered. "Kuro," Jin said again, testing how it sounded. "It means black in an old Earth language. But it also means someone who protects from the shadows. Someone who cares even when they pretend not to. The young human stood up slowly, being careful, with his healing leg. I have to go back to the settlement soon. The others will be worried about me. But I want you to know something, Kuro. You gave me more than just food and water. You gave me hope. Jin picked up his small pack and the device that had brought him to the cave in the first place. The signal was stronger now, meaning the supply pod was very close. I know you probably can't understand all of this, Jin said, but where I come from, when someone saves your life, they become part of your family. Not by blood, but by choice. Jin walked toward the cave entrance, then stopped and looked back at the shadows. You don't have to be alone anymore, Kuro. I know you're probably used to living by yourself, hunting and surviving on your own, but you have a choice now. You could come with me. You could see what it's like to have a home with people who care about you. Vorthak's mind was spinning with new concepts. Family by choice. Home. Care without conditions. These ideas were so foreign to alien culture that he had no words for them in his own language. I'll be back tomorrow, Jin said. I need to find that supply pod and get the medical equipment back to the settlement. But after that, I'll come visit you again if that's okay. Jin smiled at the blue lights in the darkness. Thank you for everything, Kuro. Thank you for showing me that kindness exists even in the strangest places. As Jin limped out of the cave and into the morning sunlight, Vorthak remained frozen in the shadows. The name Kuro echoed in his mind, like a new song he was learning to sing. For the first time in his long life, Vorthak had been seen not as a monster or a killer, but as someone worth caring about. Someone worth naming, someone worth calling family. The concept was so powerful that it changed something fundamental deep inside the alien predator. He was no longer just Vorthak the hunter. Now he was also Kuro, the protector who watched from the shadows, and that made all the difference in the galaxy. Jin found the supply pod 2 hours after leaving the cave. It had crashed into a small clearing, its metal sides dented but still intact. Inside were the medical supplies the settlement desperately needed, along with communication equipment and food rations. As Jin worked to gather what he could carry, he felt eyes watching him from the forest. He looked up and smiled. I know you're there, Kuro, he said to the trees. Thank you for keeping me safe while I work. Jin could not see Vorthak, but the alien was indeed nearby, moving silently through the branches above. Something had changed in how Vorthak saw his role. He was no longer hunting Jin. He was protecting him. The young human loaded his pack with as much as he could manage and began the long walk back to the settlement. His leg was still sore, but he felt stronger than he had in days. The medical supplies would help Dr. Hyun treat the sick colonists, and the communication equipment might let them contact the rescue ships. But as Jin walked through the forest, he did not know that other eyes were watching him too. High above the planet's atmosphere, 3 alien warships hung in the darkness of space like sleeping predators. They had come looking for Vorthak, who had not reported back to his clan in over 3 months. The ships were commanded by Sektar, Vorthak's former clan leader. Sektar was ancient even by alien standards, with scars covering his dark fur from countless battles. He had banished Vorthak years ago for showing mercy to a wounded enemy, but alien law still required him to investigate when a clan member went missing. Scan the surface, Sektar commanded from the bridge of his flagship. Find the hunter's trail. The ship's sensors swept across the forest moon, detecting life signs and energy signatures. They found the human settlement immediately, along with traces of alien presence throughout the forest. The hunter lives, reported one of Sektar's warriors, but he has not made any kills in 47 days. This news puzzled and angered Sektar. Aliens did not stop hunting unless they were dead or dying. For Vorthak to be alive but not killing meant something was very wrong. Prepare landing craft, Sektar ordered. We will discover what has corrupted our hunter. Meanwhile, Jin had made it halfway back to the settlement when exhaustion forced him to rest. He sat against a large tree, drinking water, and eating one of the purple fruits from his pack. The forest was peaceful around him, with small creatures moving through the undergrowth and birds calling from the canopy. Jin looked up at the branches above him and spoke to the shadows. You know, Kuro, I've been thinking about what you must be going through. It can't be easy changing how you see the world. I went through something similar when I was younger. Jin adjusted his position against the tree trunk. I used to think that the only way to be strong was to not need anyone else. My parents died when I was 12, and I spent years trying to prove I could handle everything alone. I was angry at anyone who tried to help me. A slight rustling in the leaves above told Jin that Kuro was listening. But my grandmother never gave up on me. She kept showing me kindness even when I pushed her away. She taught me that real strength comes from choosing to care about others, not from being able to hurt them. Jin stood up slowly, shouldering his pack again. I think you're stronger than you know, Kuro. It takes real courage to choose protection over destruction. As Jin continued walking toward the settlement, Vorthak followed through the trees, thinking about the human's words. The concept of strength through caring was still difficult for him to understand, but he could feel its truth in his own actions over the past week. The sun was setting when Jin finally saw the lights of the settlement ahead. But something was wrong. Instead of the usual warm glow of cooking fires and workshop lights, harsh white beams cut through the darkness. Strange shadows moved between the buildings. Jin crouched behind a fallen log and peered at his home. 3 large ships had landed in the clearing near the settlement. They were nothing like the human colony ship. These vessels were sleek and dark, with curves that reminded Jin of predatory animals. Figures moved around the ships and through the settlement. They were tall and powerful, walking on 6 legs each. Their bodies were covered in dark fur, and blue markings glowed along their sides. Jin's heart sank as he realized what he was seeing. These were others like Kuro. But unlike his gentle protector, these creatures moved with the confidence of hunters who had found their prey. In the center of the settlement, Jin could see the human colonists gathered in a tight group. Dr. Hyun and Tae were there, along with all the others. They were surrounded by the alien hunters, who seemed to be studying them like specimens in a laboratory. One of the aliens was larger than the rest, with more scars and brighter markings. This one was clearly their leader. As Jin watched, the leader approached Dr. Hyun and began speaking in a series of growls and clicks that the humans could not understand. Jin felt movement behind him and turned to see glowing blue eyes in the darkness. Kuro had appeared at his side, also watching the scene below. Those are your people, aren't they? Jin whispered. Vorthak nodded slowly, a very human gesture he had learned from watching Jin. They've come for you, Jin continued. And they found the settlement. Vorthak's mind was torn between 2 worlds. Below him were his clan, the warriors he had once fought beside. They represented everything he had been raised to believe in: strength, conquest, the glory of the hunt. But beside him was Jin, representing something entirely different: kindness, protection, chosen family. The human had offered him a name and a home, concepts that alien culture said were signs of weakness. What will you do? Jin asked quietly. Vorthak looked at the settlement, then at Jin, then back at his clan. For the first time in his life, he was facing a choice that would define who he truly was. He could return to Sektar and resume his place as a hunter. The clan would forgive his long absence if he brought them these humans as trophies. It would be the safe choice, the expected choice. Or he could do something that no alien had ever done before. He could choose the humans over his own species. He could choose love over fear, protection over destruction. As if reading his thoughts, Jin reached out and gently touched one of Vorthak's front legs. Whatever you decide, Kuro, I want you to know that you'll always be my friend. You saved my life, and that means something to me. It means everything. Jin stood up, still carrying his pack of medical supplies. I have to go down there. Those are my people, and they need help. But you don't have to come with me. You don't have to choose sides. Jin looked into Vorthak's glowing eyes. But if you do come with me, if you do choose to stand with us, then you'll never be alone again. I promise you that. Vorthak watched as Jin began walking down the hill toward the settlement, toward certain danger, toward his captured friends and family. The young human was limping and injured, carrying medical supplies instead of weapons, facing an enemy he could not possibly defeat. But Jin was walking forward anyway because it was the right thing to do. And in that moment, Vorthak finally understood what true strength looked like. The alien hunter stood up to his full height, his blue markings glowing, brighter in the darkness. He had made his choice. Kuro was going home. Jin walked into the settlement with his hands raised, showing he carried no weapons. The alien hunters turned toward him immediately, their yellow eyes glowing in the darkness. Several of them moved to surround him, but Jin kept walking toward the group of captured colonists. "Jin!" Dr. Hyun called out when she saw him. "Stay back. Don't come any closer." But Jin ignored her warning. He walked straight to his friends and family, dropping his pack of medical supplies at Dr. Hyun's feet. "I brought the medicine you needed," Jin said calmly. "And I brought something else too." The largest of the alien hunters stepped forward. This was Sektar, though Jin did not know his name. The ancient alien leader towered over the young human, his scarred face showing both curiosity and contempt. Sektar spoke in his own language, a series of growls and clicks that meant nothing to the humans. When Jin did not respond, Sektar switched to broken human speech that he had learned from studying their transmissions. "You are late, small prey," Sektar said, his voice like grinding stone. "We have been waiting. Where is the hunter who was supposed to kill you months ago?" Jin looked up at the massive alien without fear. "You mean Kuro? He's right behind me." The alien warriors looked confused. They scanned the area around Jin but saw nothing. Sektar's eyes narrowed with suspicion. "There is no one behind you, human." "You lie." "No," Jin said quietly. "I don't lie. He's there. He's always been there, watching over us, protecting us." As if summoned by Jin's words, Vorthak stepped out of the shadows at the edge of the settlement. His blue markings glowed brightly in the darkness as he walked slowly toward the group. The other alien warriors immediately recognized him and stepped back in surprise. Sektar's expression changed from confusion to anger. "Vorthak," Sektar growled. "At last you show yourself. Explain why you have not completed your hunt. Explain why these prey still live." Vorthak stopped beside Jin, his massive form creating a shadow that covered the young human completely. When he spoke, it was in the alien language. But his voice was different from before, calmer, more thoughtful. "I have been learning," Vorthak said. "Learning what?" Sektar demanded. "Learning that there are things more important than killing." The other alien warriors made sounds of shock and disbelief. In their culture, nothing was more important than the hunt. Nothing was more sacred than proving strength through conquest. Sektar's anger grew. "You have been corrupted by these weak creatures. You have forgotten what it means to be alien." "No," Vorthak replied. "I have remembered what it means to choose." Jin stepped forward, placing himself between the two massive aliens. Dr. Hyun and the other humans watched in amazement, as their small friend faced down creatures that could tear him apart with their claws. "Please," Jin said, looking up at Sektar. "Let me tell you about Kuro. Let me tell you what kind of being he really is." Sektar laughed, a harsh sound like breaking rocks. "Kuro? What is this word?" "It's his name," Jin said proudly. "It means protector. It means someone who watches over others even when they can't see him doing it." Jin turned to face all the alien warriors, his voice growing stronger. "For 3 months you thought Kuro was hunting us. But he wasn't. He was protecting us from the real dangers of this world. When wild animals attacked our settlement, Kuro drove them away. When storms threatened to destroy our shelters, Kuro guided us to safety. When I was lost and injured in the forest, Kuro saved my life." The young human looked back at Vorthak with genuine affection. "He could have killed any of us at any time. We're weak compared to him. We have no claws, no natural weapons, no real defenses. But instead of seeing us as prey, Kuro chose to see us as something worth protecting." Sektar's eyes blazed with fury. "Impossible. Aliens do not protect prey. We hunt. We kill. We prove our strength through conquest. Then maybe, Jin said quietly, it's time to find a new way to be strong. The words hit Sektar like a physical blow. He reared up on his hind legs, preparing to strike down this insolent human who dared to question alien ways. But Vorthak moved faster. He positioned himself directly in front of Jin, his own body becoming a shield. The message was clear. To harm, Jin Sektar would have to go through him first. Stand aside, corrupted one, Sektar commanded. These creatures have poisoned your mind. I will cleanse you of their weakness. They haven't made me weak, Vorthak replied. They've made me strong enough to choose what I protect instead of what I destroy. Dr. Hyun suddenly stepped forward, her scientific mind working quickly to understand the situation. You're his clan leader, aren't you? She said to Sektar. You came here expecting to find a failed hunter, but what you found instead is something you don't understand. Sektar turned his attention to the older human woman. Speak quickly before I lose patience with all of you. Kuro didn't fail his mission, Dr. Hyun explained. He succeeded at something much harder. He learned to value life instead of taking it. He discovered that real strength comes from building rather than destroying. Tae joined Dr. Hyun, and soon all the colonists were standing together facing the alien warriors without weapons but without fear. Kuro saved all of us, Tai said. Not just from dangers in the forest but from despair. He showed us that even in the darkest places, kindness can exist. One by one, the humans began sharing their stories. How they had seen evidence of Kuro's protection over the months. How their crops had been defended from insects by someone they never saw. How dangerous predators had been driven away from their children while they slept. The other alien warriors listened with growing confusion. These stories went against everything they had been taught about the relationship between hunter and prey. Jin looked up at Vorthak, then back at Sektar. Kuro isn't your hunter anymore, Jin said firmly. He's our family, and we're his, not because of blood or duty, but because we choose to care about each other. Sektar stared at this small human who spoke with such conviction about concepts that alien culture considered signs of weakness. But there was something in Jin's voice, something in the way all the humans stood together without fear, that made the ancient warrior pause. Family, Sektar repeated slowly, as if testing an unfamiliar word. Yes, Jin said. Family. People who protect each other not because they have to, but because they want to. People who share their food when others are hungry, who stay awake, to guard others while they sleep, who choose love over fear. Vorthak spoke again, his voice carrying across the settlement. I have found something here that I never knew existed in the galaxy. I have found a place where I belong not because I am the strongest, but because I choose to use my strength to help, rather than harm. The massive alien looked at Jin with eyes that glowed with warmth instead of predatory hunger. This human gave me a name when I had lost everything else. He offered me a home when I had nowhere to go. He showed me that there are things worth protecting in this universe. Vorthak turned back to Sektar, standing tall and proud. I am no longer just a hunter. I am Kuro, protector of this family, and I will stand with them against any threat, even if that threat comes from my own clan. For long moments, the settlement was silent except for the gentle sounds of night creatures in the forest. Sektar studied the scene before him. A small group of humans standing without weapons against alien warriors who could destroy them easily, and one of his own people choosing to protect rather than conquer. Finally, the ancient alien leader spoke. This is not the way of our people, he said slowly. No, Vorthak agreed. It's better. Sektar looked at the young human who had started all of this. Jin met his gaze without flinching. You truly believe this one has found a new kind of strength? Sektar asked. I know he has, Jin replied. And so have we. We're stronger together than any of us could ever be alone. Something shifted in Sektar's ancient eyes. Perhaps it was curiosity. Perhaps it was a long-buried memory of what it felt like to protect rather than destroy. Show me, the alien leader said quietly. And so began the first alliance between humans and aliens, built not on conquest or submission, but on the simple idea that caring for others was the greatest strength of all. Jin smiled up at Kuro, his friend, his protector, his chosen family. "Welcome home," he said. In the years that followed, other young aliens would come to the settlement to learn about this new way of being strong. The forest moon became a place where two very different species discovered that the universe was big enough for hunters and protectors, for those who took by force and those who gave by choice. And it all started with one human offering water to a creature in the darkness and saying, "You don't have to be alone anymore.